Welcome back friends to the course of operating system. In this video I am going to cover the next CPU scheduling algorithms, which are longest remaining time first and highest response ratio next. The longest remaining time first works on the burst time. So the criteria here is the burst time of the process. Whichever process has the bigger burst time will be given the chance in CPU for execution. While this algorithm can be implemented in both the modes, preemptive as well as non-preemptive. And if in certain example, if it is not given, then by default you have to consider it's a preemptive algorithm. So let me explain this algorithm with the help of this example. So here are the three processes given. Let's try to draw the Gantt chart for these processes. Assume that the mode is preemptive here. Let's look at the solution. At time t is equal to 0, all three processes are arriving, and 2, 4, 8 are the burst times of these processes respectively. I have shown these burst times in the bracket. So at time t is equal to 0, the longest process means the burst time of this process P3 is higher. So I will schedule it. If I give one time unit to this process, at time t is equal to 1, let's assume, the remaining time of P3 will become 7. Still it would be higher than 4 and 2, and that's how process P3 will continue. So I can say from 0 to 4, process P3 will continue, and at time t is equal to 4, the remaining time of these processes will be 2, 4 and 4 respectively. Now out of these three processes, process P2 and P3 has a tie. Now when there is a tie, we go with the arrival time. We follow the arrival time. But there is a tie in the arrival time also, because they have arrived at time t0. And that's how I will now look at the process number. I will just follow the chronological order. So I am going to schedule the process P2 here. So I'll schedule it for one time unit. At time t is equal to 5, its burst time will reduce by 1. So remaining time at this moment is 3. P2's remaining time is 3. And P3's remaining time is as it is, that is 4 now. Now out of these three processes, the remaining time of P3 is higher. That's how the process P3 is going to get the chance again. At this moment, burst times of P2 and P3 become 3 and 3. Again there is a tie, so we will follow chronological order and chance is given to the P2. At time t is equal to 7, the burst time is reduced by 1 for the process P2, and P3's remaining time is 3. So P3 again is larger process here, so I am going to schedule the P3 for 1 unit of time. At time t is equal to 8, all the processes have equal burst time, remaining burst time, and that's how there is a tie among all processes. So we will just follow the chronological order. I am going to schedule the process P1. At time t is equal to 9, there is a tie between P2 and P3. So I am going to schedule the process P2. And at time t is equal to 10, process P3 has 2 time units remaining, which is higher than process P1 and P2's remaining time. So that's why process P3 will get scheduled. At time t is equal to 11, all processes again have equal remaining burst time, 1, 1 and 1. And that's how we will again follow P1 followed by P2 followed by P3. So at time t is equal to 12, process P1 is going to complete, and remaining burst time of P2 and P3 are 1. After one time unit again, process P2 is going to complete, and finally the process P3 is going to finish. So that's how after each time unit in this particular example, I have to preempt the process and give the chance to the process with the longer burst time. Let us discuss the next CPU algorithm, that is highest response ratio next. The criteria for this algorithm is the response ratio, and the ratio is given by this formula: waiting time plus service time, the whole factor divided by service time. Service time is nothing but the burst time of the process. If I simplify this formula, it is waiting time divided by service time and the whole factor plus 1. This algorithm is implemented in the non-preemptive mode. Let me tell you the significance of this response ratio. Why this response ratio is useful here. So because of this response ratio, this algorithm favors the shorter jobs, but it also increases the chance of those jobs which has waited for longer time. Means if there is a small job, shorter job, let's say just 1 time unit or 2 time unit it requires in CPU, then those will be favored. On the other hand, other jobs which have waited for longer duration of time, means as their waiting time increases, they are given the favor. Why? So, because if you look at the response ratio, the waiting time is in the numerator. Now, if the waiting time is in the numerator and if the waiting time of process keeps on increasing, then obviously this ratio is going to increase. Assuming that the service time will always remain constant. So for a process, for any process, the ratio will increase when the waiting time of that process will increase. And more is the response ratio, more are the chances of getting this process for execution. With this explanation, I can say that the starvation is also reduced for those longer jobs which has waited for long time. But remember that HRRN is not 100% starvation free. Why? Because let's say if the shorter processes keeps on arriving after each time unit, then they will be favored. Now in that case, longer processes will still starve. But certainly as compared to the previous algorithms that are SJF and SRTF, the starvation is reduced to some extent. Let me discuss this algorithm with the help of this question. So here I have given the 5 processes, arrival times are given and the respective burst times are given. Let's try to draw the Gantt chart for this table. So here at time t is equal to 0, process P1 is arriving. At this moment I don't have any process in system. So remember that in any whether you apply HRRN algorithm or you apply any other algorithm, at any point, at any moment, if you have any one process to schedule, you don't have to make any decision. You can straight away schedule that process to CPU. So here at time t is equal to 0, I have only one process, so I am going to schedule it. Now since it is a non-preemptive algorithm, it will run up to the time it requires. It requires 3 units of burst time, and at time 3 it will finish. Meanwhile, at time 2, process P2 arrives. So at time 3, I have only one process again, which is P2, and I have scheduled it for 6 time units. It will finish at 9. During this time, at time t is equal to 4, process P3 arrives, and at time t is equal to 6, process P4 arrives, and one more process, that is P5, arrives at time 8. So at this moment, at time t is equal to 9, process P1 and P2 have already finished, and I have P3, P4 and P5 competing for CPU. So here I have to make the decision now. Now let's calculate the response ratio of these 3 processes. Let me first calculate the response ratio of P3. So P3's waiting time till 9 is 5 time minutes. So P3 came at 4 and at this moment means at 9 it has spent 5 time units in the waiting state. So that's why 5 time units is the waiting time of process P3 plus its service time. In the table the service time is given as 4 time units. So I consider that. So 4 plus 5 divided by service time, that is 4. So the fraction is 2.25. Similarly, let me calculate the waiting time of P4 and P5. P4's waiting time is from 6 to 9 it is 3 time units, and for process P5 from 8 to 9 it is 1 time unit, and the respective burst times I have given here. So out of these three ratios, I can see that the ratio of process P3 is higher, and that's how I am going to schedule the process P3. It will finish at time t is equal to 13, and at time 13 again I have to make decision among P4 and P5. So let's again calculate the ratio of P4 and P5. So at time t is equal to 13, the waiting time of process P4 is going to be 7. So 6, it arrives at 6, and until now, that is 13, 7 time units it has waited. So 7 plus service time is 5. So 7 plus 5 by 5, the ratio is 2.4. Similarly, the response ratio of P5 is 5 is the waiting time. So from 8 to 13 it is 5, and its service time is 2. So 7 plus 7 by 2, it is 3.5. So at this moment P5's response ratio looks higher, 3.5, and that's why process P5 will get scheduled to CPU. So at time t is equal to 15 it will finish, and at this moment I have only one process to schedule, that is P4, which will complete at time 20. So one question for you: when this HRRN algorithm behaves like shortest job first algorithm? So here is the explanation. When arrival time of all processes is same, in that case, if you draw the Gantt chart of SJF algorithm and if you draw the Gantt chart of using the HRRN algorithm, the both Gantt chart will be same. Why so? See, the HRRN means the response ratio depends on two factors, which is waiting time in the numerator, and in the denominator we have the service time. Now, if the waiting time remains constant for all processes, then the comparison is purely based on the service time. Then the process whose denominator is shorter, less, means the service time is less, that process's response ratio will become high. That's how the shorter jobs response ratio will become high in HRRN if we keep the numerator constant for all processes. So the decision making factor becomes the service time. So that's how we reach to the end of this CPU scheduling algorithms, LRTF and HRRN. In the next video, I am going to discuss the next CPU scheduling algorithm, which is one of the important algorithm also, which is priority based scheduling.